This is Let Us Interrupt You NBA Finals post-wrap here on Friday, June 3rd, 2022. The Celtics won Game 1 last night in San Francisco to go up 1-0 in the series. They were down as much as 15 points in the getting into the fourth quarter. But they managed to find a way to come back. They were able to outscore the Warriors in the fourth quarter, 42-16, to win 120-108. Al Horford was the man here on the team last night. Had 26 points, went 6 for 8 for 3, most three-pointers in a Game 1 in an NBA Finals. Steph Curry had 21 points in the first half, mainly in the first quarter. Didn't score anything in the second quarter. I believe he had finished with 36 points last night, if I'm not mistaken. Klay Thompson, I believe, finished with 15 or 17 points in the game. The story of the game simply was the Celtics winning threes. Both teams combined to get 43 pointers in the game. So that's the story there with that game. Story with that one really is both teams were able to get what they needed to get from the 3-point range. Smart's 3 points late was able to help out late in the game. And I was actually wrong with the fourth quarter. I'm sorry. They were able to outscore 40-16, which I surprisingly thought they only scored 78 points heading into the quarter. But anyway, I was wrong. Steph Curry had 34 points. I'm mixing up the box scores already here. Thompson had 15 points. Not really a great night for Draymond Green shooting the ball. He was 2 for 12, 0 for 4 from 3. Wiggins was 2 for 7 from 3, 8 for 15 overall, had 20 points. Tatum only had 12 points in the game. He had an ugly night shooting last night. He went 3 for 17 in the game, 1 for 5 for 3. Al Horford was 9 for 12 in this game, was the player of the night, in my opinion. He came to play last night. It was as simple as that. Robert Williams had 25 minutes on the floor, had 8 points, 6 rebounds. Good enough for me. He played good enough defense, too. Had a couple of blocks in there as well. Brown had a block in the game as well. Was 10 for 23 shooting, 2 for 8 overall from 3. Not a good night for him shooting the 3-ball, but he had 24 points. As long as you get in a percentage where you're like either 10 for 20 or 10 for 23, in my opinion, if you're shooting the ball like that, you're good in my book. But yeah, the announcement was made, So that the announcement of the Celtics going in there and making a statement was made. The 3-point announcement, which was basically raining threes. Let's go to that initial number right there. 21 for 41 from 3. That was 51.2%. Overall, as a team, they shot 50% from the field, whether it was 2-pointer or 3-pointer, 43 for 85. That's a 50.6% mark. The Warriors went 39 for 88, 44.3. The Warriors went 19 for 45 from 3. That's 42.2%. Overall, Warriors, they had a 15-point lead. Celtics were able to rally at heading into the fourth. This team, there are a lot of Boston fans out there that give up on this team so easily. But I was taking a fit in my car because I was actually driving to a friend's house to celebrate my other friend's birthday party. By the way, happy birthday to Mike Smith, the co-host for the show. He turned 25 years old. Again, milestone birthday for him, quarter of a century. So again, happy birthday to Mike. He knew I was going to be doing his NBA post-wrap today. He had to sleep off the party that we had last night. He's probably still asleep right now. But yeah, I had to do his NBA post-wrap because I did promise you guys I would give you an NBA post-wrap. I probably should have previewed this video. I probably should have just rehearsed of what I was going to say because right now I'm botching a little bit of it. But it is what it is. But yeah, I am doing this by myself right now. I'm not going to try to be on here for long because I got a lot of stuff to do. So I'm going to make this quick. Celtics got the big win last night. They start out in the first quarter in this game basically trying to not let the Warriors rally here. And really it was between that. They took the lead back in the second quarter. They were up by 2 at the half. They held Curry to no points in the second quarter. I can't recall any basketball team, whether it was in the Eastern Conference, Western Conference, even if LeBron James was playing in that game, had held Curry under to no points in one quarter. I just can't think of a time, especially after he went off a performance where he had 21 in the first quarter. I've been watching basketball now for a long time, and I just can't remember any star player, whether it was Kobe, LeBron, or Steph, or anybody like that, or even Russell Westbrook. When someone has like a great first quarter, They don't normally get shut down in the second quarter. It just never happens. But this was great defense by the Celtics. This defense is just firing in all cylinders here. They could have held this team under the 90 points. I mean, that's how much strong their defense was heading into this fourth quarter. And the fact they were able to outscore 40-16, I thought was outstanding. Outstanding all the way around. And, we'll see what happens now going forward with this team, deep in the playoffs. I mean, I had this team winning in 6, then I changed it to 7 games because I think this might go to a 7-game series. But if this keeps up, if they win game 2 in Golden State, then win game 3 in Boston, then lose game 4, and then go back to game 5 and win the series somehow to close out in San Francisco, this could be the best Celtics run ever. Straight up. I'm not biased here because of where I grew up watching, but I'm looking at this from a perspective where I believe when the Warriors and Celtics faced off the first time in 1964, that series closed out in Boston. To do it on the road in that fan base there, to shut them up, shutting up those, haters on the green teamers, that would be awesome. That'd be an awesome way to close out a series like this. Again, it was huge. The Celtics got this win last night. They needed this win. They needed a rally, and they got it. They were able to close out game 1 last night with a huge positive win. And if Al Horford keeps having games like this and Tatum just doesn't show up, I mean, because look at it. Look who stepped up last night. And, and there were a lot of people who stepped up last night and in spite of Tatum's horrible play. Horford stepped up last night. Williams stepped up last night. Marcus Smart stepped up last night. Jaylen Brown. I just named you 4 starters right there last night that stepped up last night to take place in Tatum's bad play. Who stepped up for Golden State last night? Curry's the only one that really showed up. Adepor had 12 points off the bench. He was 4 for 5 from 3. He's really. He was starting out 3 for 3. Then he went 1 for 2 the last 2 shots. Didn't have a lot of time really in the game, although he had 24 minutes. Iguodala had 7 points. Again, not a bad night for him. Could have used him a little bit more in the game. I thought Wiggins and Looney were kind of in there a little bit too long. I'm just going to put it out there. I just think they were. Looney, I kind of get. They don't have much of a center here at this point. Draymond Green just had too many minutes in this game. I think it was time to pull a plug on him at that point. Put Iguodala there or something like that. I don't know. Put Porter there maybe. I mean, there were times where you could say Draymond Green was helping. He didn't help. I mean, to be fouled out in the game and to do absolutely nothing in this game of note, it just – he didn't do anything. He had 11 rebounds. I mean, if that's going to give you a good enough number for you, I mean, getting rebounds is good, but it's not going to get you wins. It's not going to get you points. And he had 5 assists in the game, which was a good thing, I guess, but I don't know. Wiggins wasn't that great from the 3-point range either. As a matter of fact, the only good person that was really good in the 3 last night was Steph Curry. He started out firing cylinders all the way through, 7 for 14. Klay Thompson, 3 for 7. And most of those threes, I will say this about the Celtics, though. They were too easy. They were probably the easiest 3-pointers that the Warriors have had all season. Because some of those threes were so wide open that I just shook my head. Because I thought to myself, this is the NBA Finals. You don't allow wide open threes like that in the NBA. I don't care how great your defense is. That's what you don't do. So for them to close out that game last night to win by 12 and to play that style of defense last night, and basically, really Curry, really that's the only way you can beat the Warriors at this point. Let Curry do his thing and shut down the other players. I mean, it's a good approach. I mean, the Warriors took that approach. And think about it. That's when Durant and Thompson were injured. A lot of people were going to say, "Oh, they were playing in that series. They would have been a totally different series." I don't think it would have been a totally different series. I got to be honest, because Durant really wasn't that blowaway to start out that series anyway. I mean, even when he came back with a torn Achilles, he wasn't really blowing people away, and they let them in there for too long. He was already steamed. He hasn't played a series since he injured himself. And it's just, I mean, at that point, then you got Klay Thompson who pulled a Kobe and just basically made a free throw with a torn Achilles. That's not easy to do. So, Suns got a huge win last night. It was huge. We needed that game 1 win. Game 2 beyond this Sunday on ABC. Anyway. So, yeah, the Celtics got a big win last night. I got to move on to something else because I know this is the NBA post-wrap here. I should be exploring more about who did what last night. But I basically summed up the game for you right there. They started out really well. Curry did his thing. And when it really came down to it, the Warriors have got to step up more. It's that simple. Because I got to move on to something else right now. I'm not going to be on here for too long. Like I said, I did my 10-minute review in the NBA Finals. Celtics got a big win, 120-108. We got some more news to talk about, which is Ryan Fitzpatrick and Alex Mack retired respectively both from their teams. Ryan Fitzpatrick, who's been playing for 9 NFL teams, is a journeyman, really. The amount of teams he's played for, the amount of success he's had at playing for the team. And it's sad he never made the postseason, but yeah, Ryan Fitzpatrick announcing his retirement as of yesterday after 17 seasons. But then first team he played with was the St. Louis Rams originally. Now they're the LA Rams, obviously. Started his career out there. And everyone's going to remember that comeback game that he had late in that game against the Houston Texans. Now, granted, the Texans at that time weren't blow away. They were sucky. They didn't have much to deal with there. And all it was there was David Carr and Andre Johnson. That was it. That was like the only good two things about that Houston Texans team. The rest of it was pure garbage. But yeah, that comeback game and the most things that he had for most of his career with the Bengals, with the Buffalo Bills, with the Jets, just the amount of teams he went up against. I mean, his time with the Washington Commanders, his time with because he's played for a lot of teams. I mean, he played mostly for a lot of good teams. The Miami Dolphins recently, there's just a lot of teams he played for. Tremendous career. It's too bad he never led him to a postseason. His best chance, really, was with the New York Jets back in 2015. That was his best chance because they had a really good team back then. Heck, they beat the Patriots in that last week of the season. So, or second to last week of the season because they ended up losing to Buffalo that next week against Rex Ryan and his formerly coached team. But yeah, Rex Ryan. Ryan Fitzpatrick, 17 seasons, calling it a career. Huge news. Alex Mack, the center for the Atlanta Falcons, calling it a career after, I would say, most of his career was really spent with the Browns. He became an Atlanta Falcon last year. Was a center behind Matt Ryan last season. Pretty good center. He was one of the top elite centers right now that could protect your quarterback. Was really good. Really good handle nose tackles pretty well. This comes to a shock to me because now you need a center now if you're Atlanta. So what do? You're all out of options at this point. But yeah, he retired as of yesterday. So congrats on a wonderful careers for both Ryan Fitzpatrick and Alex Mack. Some sad news I got to get into as of yesterday. Marion Barber was found dead in his apartment. Very sad to hear about the former Dallas Cowboy and former Chicago Bear running back. Died at 38 years old. Now, there's been no news yet of how he passed away, what happened. There's been no report on it. In fact, this report came out on CBS Sports last night. It broke out a Newsbreak on the Newsbreak app. If you don't have it on your Samsung phone, it's like a news updater. I got the news when I was at work, and I was completely shocked that another young NFL, for someone who's been retired out of the game for about 10 years and to enjoy retirement, and not do anything, just be an innocent person and to be found dead in your apartment, it's sad. And this guy was making tons of money playing for the NFL. I think he retired too soon. And the problem was he just couldn't find a job. Nobody wanted him, and it's pretty sad that he never really had a long, lustrous career as a running back. And his time came too soon. He was all banged up, no good to the Bears. And he ended up getting cut. And it's pretty sad to hear that he had passed away as of Wednesday night. He was found dead Wednesday afternoon into Wednesday night. The report just came in. So that Wednesday. So condolences to the family and friends of Marion Barber. And really, it's going to be a very sad, sad time right now for that whole family. To even know what happened. And really, he was going through some hard times. Struggling financially. Getting in trouble. It just wasn't good for Marion Barber. And he could have had a comeback career in the NFL. I mean, had he not been, and there was reports saying right now that he was like into drugs. Maybe he was going broke. I mean, there was a lot of things right now. He was living in a really crappy apartment. I heard, but again, very sad to hear. And it's got to be depressing when you don't have any money and you're used to be a really, like, I would say above average running back. I wouldn't say he was in the elite class, but just above average at this point with Marion Barber. But yeah, very sad to hear that he had passed away at this point. And again, it is what it is. I mean, it's sad right now that this had to happen. It shouldn't have happened. I think now at this point, the question is how to heal from it. How to heal from it in this regard. Because it's just very sad to hear about what happened now at this point. Also, we got some news right now about this is what I actually got the report from. This is from CBS Sports. That was announced Wednesday. He was 38 years old, Marion Barber. I didn't know if I mentioned that earlier, but this is what was quoted here. Barber would have turned 39 on June 10th. He was drafted by the Dallas Cowboys, a fourth-round pick back in 2005. Spent 6 years with the team. He went to Chicago in 2011. Made the Pro Bowl with the Cowboys in 2007 when he finished with He finished his career with 4,780 yards, 53 rushing touchdowns, and 133 receiving yards with 6 receiving touchdowns. Very sad to hear. In 2014, Barber was detained by police or had an incident that resulted in the hospital for mental health evaluation. In 2019, he was arrested by police for 2 misdemeanor criminal mischief charges. And that was when he was struggling at that point. So I didn't want to bring that up, but again, that's what happened. Heartbroken, tragic death right now, Marion Barber III. The team said in a statement that Marion was an old-school, hard-nosed football player who ran with the will to win every down. He was. I even go back and remember that game where it was against the Patriots in 07 when they were undefeated at the time. And they almost had a 5-yard loss, almost turned to a safety. And he had only a 2-yard run. And he was pinned way back deep in the end zone. I couldn't believe it. I thought he was going to run back and take it all the way to the end zone for a touchdown. But it was only for 2 yards. And that effort alone right there made him a badass savage. I know it was only for 2 yards, but it was not an easy run. Go back and watch that game if you don't believe it. Go back and watch that full game back in 2007, Patriots Cowboys that season. I thought for sure the Cowboys were going to win that game because they played us tough. Them and the Giants that season played us tough. It's too bad we didn't go undefeated that year because we lost to the Giants. We would have beaten the Giants twice or beaten the Cowboys twice. But yeah, sad news. Anyway, so that sad news came out. There was other reports on here I was going to get into, but I'll probably most likely talk about most of them next week. Tavon Austin was signed with the Buffalo Bills. Agreed to a contract now. No one really knows the terms of the deal. That's really about it for Tavon. That's really about the Tavon Austin story. There's nothing really else really to get into here. Oh yeah, Joe Girardi fired as Phillies manager after losing 12 times in the last 15 games, 22-29 right now. A lot of people are saying it's going to fix the Phillies' problems. I don't think it does. I think this Philadelphia Philly team is screwed no matter who the manager is at this point, no matter who's on this roster, because there's a total dysfunction with the GM and the president and this whole team. This whole team altogether is a complete dumpster fire. To me, they're completely useless. They're a waste of time, waste of space. They don't serve any purpose at all whatsoever in running this Philadelphia Philly franchise. You got overpaid talent on this team. Bryce Harper to be one of them. A guy who's done nothing for the Nationals to earn anything, who's done nothing to earn anything with the Phillies. The money that he's getting, it's pathetic. All it is for TV deals, marketing, and making this guy happy about being in Philadelphia. Because let's be honest, he does not want to be a Philadelphia Philly. He doesn't. I can just tell. His attitude, everything about it screams out, I don't want to be here. I should not be here. But I might as well enjoy it because I'm getting a lot of money sipping off this team. So, I mean, to me, there's no brain. There's no brain doubt about it in my mind. There's no brain power in that organization. Dave Dombrowski does not know how to run this team. The organization is running on a downward spiral. Joe Girardi is the first one to go because he wanted out of there. I think he thought in his mind that he was going to keep the job, but then walk away and they didn't offer him more money. Because I don't think Girardi really even cared about being here anymore. The team wasn't doing anything. They weren't succeeding with him. And that's that. I mean, there's nothing left to say about this, really. Other than just watching this team completely just crap the bed because they're completely useless. So this Philadelphia Philly team, as far as I'm concerned, they suck. They're not going to make a deep playoff run this year. They're not going to make a deep playoff run with their bench coach, Rob Thompson, who, by the way, just completely said, you know what, I'll take over this team. I'll do as much as I can. But he's no help. He's going to be just worse than Girardi is. And they're going to keep on losing. For as talented as that team really is, they're not good. They're no good at all. Which brings up my next point here because, I mean, this is a well-thought-out process in my head. And I thought about this morning. I said it to myself right now. That Joe Girardi would be a perfect manager for the Red Sox. I mean, you talk about a team right now that could get a voice in it. Because, I mean, Girardi was not getting anywhere with these Philadelphia Phillies players because they don't care. They didn't care about baseball down there. They're just going through the motions at this point. They know this team's terrible. The Red Sox, in my opinion, are the right fit here because two things. One, he knows how to expose Aaron Boone. Two, he can stick it to the Yankees. That's two reasons why they hired Joe Girardi. At this point, Alex Cora, listen. He won us a World Series title. He missed the postseason in 2019. He got suspended for 1 year. He came back, went back to the ALCS. They quit on him at the ALCS in that Game 6 in Houston, right? The whole narrative was that the players were just tired and exhausted. They had no energy. They had no push left in them. They just didn't have enough for Cora. They didn't want to do it for Cora. They wanted to do it for themselves more than they wanted to do it for Cora, and they just couldn't have much of the energy to do it. And now this year so far, when the whole distraction is the whole Bogaerts and Devers distraction right now at this point, they're gone. Unless Girardi comes back in here and says, well, wait a minute. You guys got to pay these talent. These are two talented guys. You cannot let these guys go. Alex Cora right now has no say about anything because he doesn't know how to manage a team. He doesn't know how to manage the dysfunction with Bogaerts and all that stuff right now and any of the drama there. He forced Eduardo Rodriguez to walk out the door because of that spat that he had during the postseason against the Houston Astros. I mean, look, I don't know what the problem was at that point. If I was Cora at this point, I would be like, yeah, there you go. You made a stand against one of the top players in baseball, in Carlos Correa. I commend you for that. He was taunting us. You taunted him back. There you go. I don't know why Cora got so upset about that. At that time, but I don't know. To me, and it's the ownership too. John Henry, who stopped giving a crap about the Red Sox a long time ago. You got Shine Bloom, who's out to get Henry's job more than anything else. But the problem is he's not willing to step down because he doesn't want to sell the team. He's too cheap. He's not willing to put. He wants to take all the money from all the people. Like, the fans are starting to realize now that they're not stupid. Okay, they're not going to go to every game this year because it's not worth watching. Because it's a bad product. You got no defense. You got nobody who's motivated to play for this team. Your manager's checked out at this point, despite the fact right now at this point everyone's saying, oh, he shaved his beard. He doesn't look like he's older now. He knows Shine Bloom don't like him. Cora don't like Shine Bloom. And Henry would rather be the owner of the Pittsburgh Penguins and do nothing and be like a silent consultant at this point and not do anything. This is just as bad as the Pittsburgh Pirates ownership. The only difference is they only own one team. And none of these things go into motion. None of them. And in my opinion right now going forward, Cora's going to get fired anyway. By the end of the year, the Red Sox are going to end up being a 4th or 5th place team. So that's that. The other thing is if you let Cora go and you bring in Girardi at this point, and Shine Bloom becomes the owner and Henry just steps down at this point, or if Shine Bloom gets fired altogether. Because at this point, it's shifting like a Ben Cherington disaster, and we don't want that again. Honestly, at this point, I think, you know who would be a really interesting name to put in the hat right now for ownership at this point? And I know people are going to backlash because they're going to be like, well, why? Bobby Valentine. could be the owner of this team. I'll tell you why. He loves the game of baseball. He loved his time with the Boston Red Sox, even though it was cut short. He just didn't like the feel of that team. They were old. They didn't feel like they cared enough about the game. Players were already checking out, ready for retirement. He was put in a no-win situation. And as an owner, it would make a lot of sense for him to pull this out of his ass. It would. Bobby Valentine at this point would be with this team could keep the guys around they need to keep around. And not only that, but he would get a closer. He knows this team needs a freaking closer. It's common sense. You know what I would get for a GM at this point? If I just had to think of any GM at this point that would actually, it'd be Sam Cash, the guy that they wanted to hire originally, that Shine Bloom wanted. You take Shine Bloom's job, you put Valentine in there in the booth, and you put Girardi in there as a guy who would stick it to the Yankees. I know it sounds crazy. I know it sounds out of the park here, insane, but it would make a lot of sense here. It would. Would definitely make a lot of sense. I think they should do it. Pull the trigger at this point. What do you got to lose? Because if you keep John Henry around, he's just going to drive fans away. That's it. That's all there is to it. Tom Brady was doing an interview the other day with, I think he was doing an interview with, who was he doing the interview with? He was explaining about the broadcasting role. He was talking about how he was 55% not ready to retire, but 45% ready to retire. I'm not going to go on quote unquote here with this, but he was on the match with Ernie Johnson did the interview with him, and he's saying he wasn't fully ready to retire. And he basically talked about how Belichick is basically the one that taught him the different aspects of the game more differently than other coaches would teach him. That his teachings were more advanced than most NFL coaches were, which they were, which is why Belichick kind of like his influence on his game and on his coaching ability kind of made him take the job at Fox Sports. And I think honestly that doesn't surprise me, because when you taught something different here, it makes sense. It makes a lot of sense here in this case for Belichick at this point to put the implements of the game in his head. Now, I know what people are thinking at this point, like that shouldn't surprise a lot of people, because Brady gives crappy. This is the most brutally honest answer that he could have gotten here. He wasn't ready to fully retire. He took a mental break in his head. And then he realized, what am I doing? I can't step away from this. So in his mind, he'll come back for one more year. And at the same time, as a broadcaster, he'll do his thing. And I think at this point, with Belichick's wisdom, as one of the greatest coaches of all time, and you as a quarterback is one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time in Tom Brady, it works out in his favor here. His teachings and his well-advanced mindset in the game, and the highest level he's playing at right now at this point, to go out as champion and to go in the broadcasting booth right after you win a Super Bowl title. I hope he carries around those 8. I hope he gets 8 Vince Lombardi trophies and he carries all 8 of them around everywhere he goes to travel to the games. I hope it happens, because right there is a good example of someone who would make the world of football grow at a huge level here, and the world of broadcasting get better on an extremely high level. Because right now, Fox Sports right now is going to get one of the best play-by-play guys at this point, since Romo made his debut back in 2017 with CBS. Now, Romo's turning a little too corny now at this point, but he's still an excellent play-by-play guy. And I have a funny feeling, because I'm thinking, because he learned from Bill Parcells, another great mind in the NFL. I wouldn't be surprised right now if Bill Parcells helped Tony Romo get as good as he was, because honestly, I thought he'd just be a dull average player, a dull average guy who just didn't have it. Because you got a guy right now who's never had the big moment. And his broadcasting ability makes you feel like this guy has been part of every big moment in NFL history. Where really he was part of the worst moments of his career, but he learned from it. Brady has been part of every single great moment in NFL history. Every single one. He's been to multiple conference championship games, multiple Super Bowls. He's won 7 Super Bowls, the only NFL quarterback to ever do that. No one's ever going to do that ever again. And he's going to go for his 8th one. And he's doing it at 45 years old. So I'm not going to go quote unquote on what he said here, because it was a long article here. And he does credit Bill Belichick right now for his career taking out the way he does. Like it's not like he's saying that it was all him. He's crediting Belichick for his teachings. He's crediting him of what he taught in the game, and how he learned differently from defenses, like what defense would do in these situations instead of thinking what they would do. It's a chess match game with Brady and Belichick versus the entire field. That's why when they had these shirts, New England versus everybody. Perfectly good example, because it was the Bill Belichick Brady way combination versus any NFL team that thinks they have a shot of stopping them. And it was really rare that they ever do. So that's all I got to say there about this right now. And Brady's is gonna bring his expertise. This is a guy who's been part of every great moment. Now people are gonna look at it and say, "Oh, he's too dull. He's too boring. He's got no." Brady's got more personality than people think. Go watch the TNT. Go watch the trash talk he brings to Josh Allen. The guy's got more personality than you think. He knows how to run his mouth. He knows how to create attention. He knows how to set the tone here. Grab the room. Grab people's attention. He knows how to do it. This is a perfect job for him. I mentioned it one time with the whole when I mentioned in the podcast the other day on Let's Interrupt episode 51 about John Madden being on the cover. Imagine Tom Brady they had a broadcasting video game for himself. It'd be perfect. Because at that point, he knows all the aspects of football, part of every great moment, and he has no filter. John Madden, I don't think ever had a filter as a broadcaster. This is why it makes it so perfect here. Now, I think people would buy the John Madden games over that anyway, but depending on how bad the games quality are now these days, because you can look at some of those Madden games, they're not pretty, right? They're not pretty at all. So, but with those, possibly if Tom Brady decides to ever go through the TB12 method and create a TB12 football game with him as a broadcaster, if that somehow ends up better because of the game quality, not because of the main focus of the broadcasting feed, but because of the main focus on the gameplay itself, it may swing people the other way around. But because Madden's had a very, as far as the gameplay goes, it's been hit or miss. A lot of botches, a lot of errors, a lot of too much CGI animated things that would never happen in normal football games that create problems. And it's like too many viruses, it seems like, when creating these games that lead to people hating the game now. The older Madden games were the best, and there were never any issues with that at all whatsoever. One last thing to note here right now. There's actually a couple of things here. Nike's who was it? Phil Knight, the owner for Nike, has made an offer right now to buy the Portland Trailblazers, along with the Dodgers owner Alan Samlowski, as well, making offers right now to plan on buying the Portland Trailblazers. That was announced yesterday from NBA insider Adrian Wojnarowski. And they are offering more than $2 billion right now to purchase the Portland Trailblazers. We'll see what happens. I think that deal is going to go right through. I think they'll be bought by those two people. They know how to make things happen, those guys. They do. Is it ever going to give Portland Trailblazers an NBA championship? I don't know. They've got a long way to go before that even happens, but I think it'd be a good, interesting business venture as far as that goes. Anyway, I got one thing to do right now. I got to kill this ant on the floor. Got the sucker right now. Sorry about that. Just had to kill an ant that was on the floor just now. That was just crawling around with a big one. I just saw that out of the corner of my eye. It was starting to bother me, so I just figured it was going to head in my direction, so may as well just kill it. Brett Mussenberger, the former CBS Sports NFL Today host, former broadcaster for college football on ABC on the weekends. That happened throughout the early 2000s. And now you can say the former broadcaster, color commentator for the Las Vegas Raiders is out as the voice broadcasting the Las Vegas Raiders games for the 2022 season. This is what was reported right now according to Pro Football Talk. This is written by Michael Davis Smith. Not my friend Michael Smith, if you're wondering right now. That's his million. It's not David. But it says here, Brett Mussenberger will no longer work as the play-by-play voice on the Raiders radio broadcast. Mussenberger tweeted his goodbye to the team today. Says here, quote, many thanks to the Las Vegas Raiders organization for fond memories. He wrote, I miss broadcast partner Lincoln Kennedy and the radio production crew. What's next? I hear Mike Trout might step down as commissioner of his fantasy league. You never know. No reason was given for Mussenberger's departure. This is what was also written here. And there's been no word on who would be taking his place. The 83-year-old Mussenberger is a legend in the sports broadcasting, best known to many football fans as a longtime host of the NFL Today, which set the gold standard in football pregame shows back in the 1970s and the 1980s. So that was the end of that quote. Again, no reason for it. I think he just decided to call it quits. I mean, look, he was around for many, many, many football games at this point, and he was around for the NFL for most of his life. He was around college football as well. So, but yeah, he stepped down as Las Vegas Raider. He is a legend in the broadcasting field. When I think of broadcasters who have called football games, and especially the ones on the radio, and most of it for television, but they're able to do both. I think of three people: Kevin Harlan, Marv Albert, and Brett Mussenberger, because they've all done the Football on Westwood 1. And Brett Mussenberger was one of those guys. But Brett Mussenberger was part of the Las Vegas Raider family for a little bit. And he had some great calls. Had some iconic, memorable ones, too. So the announcement came out of the blue. And the announcement just came on as I was doing the show just now. And I figured I might as well just get it out there because I'm not going to wait. So anyway, so that's it. Mussenberger steps down as a Raiders play-by-play caller. Girardi's been fired. Celtics win Game 1. Game 2 will be on this Sunday. I think I mentioned about Marion Barber passing away, so I mentioned that already. Again, condolences to the family and friends from our Marion Barber, and I think the Dallas Cowboys will honor him. We'll probably have his jersey retired this year. I'm trying to imagine who they have him play against. I kind of hope they go through with it. Really, honestly, I kind of hope they do. You know, he was he was a very, very hard-nosed football player. Deserves recognition. Had a great career with the Dallas Cowboys. It is what it is. Anyway, Brady praising Belichick for the decision that he made right now about being a broadcaster, and really why he wanted to retire, because he wasn't fully ready to retire, which I think everybody knew at this point. But the fact, the numbers that were there, that he was 45% to 55%, and he had to be 100% sure about retirement before that, and he wasn't 100%. So it was pretty obvious of that being the answer. I wasn't surprised with the answer. That's why I wasn't going to go on a full-on quote-unquote story with Brady. The long-winded 5-paragraph answer here. I will get into this article I found about LeBron James, about what he said about hating the Boston Celtics and hating them with a passion. I will get into that one on Tuesday, as well as as well as Game 2. So this podcast that's coming up on Tuesday will probably be a short one. It'll just be about Game 2 of the NBA Finals, and it will be about LeBron, the whole LeBron James story. That'll probably be an ending point of the show. So the entire show on Tuesday with Mike, I don't know if Mike will be around next Saturday, but I know this for a fact right now, the Game 2 of the NBA Finals post-wrap. It's going to be the episode's going to be called, basically, episode 52 will probably be NBA post-wrap, NBA Finals Game 2. Will be the entirety of the episode. We'll cover that entire game from top to bottom. That will be the entire episode. That in the whole LeBron James hating the Boston Celtics. And I'll get into more of why he would hate the Boston Celtics later on that week. So that I'm going to end the stream with that. Our social media trend is down at the bottom. We'll be back here on Tuesday. There is no episode 52 on tomorrow. Again, I got a wake today for my uncle who passed away. I had the tribute episode. If no one's watched that, it's episode 48. I dedicated the episode to my uncle that day. I got emotional. I was crying in the other room while Mike was doing his story. But yeah, episode 52 was on Tuesday. There was no podcast tomorrow. But yeah, that's pretty much it. So I'm going to sign off here right now. I'm kind of surprised I went 41 minutes here. I was not planning to go that long with the show. But yeah, I'm going to sign off. So enjoy the rest of your week, and I'll see you all on Tuesday. Bye.